back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We're positively into the crab cake season. We're going to be at Spirits West next week, kicking off a summer-long, I don't want to call it gluttony, but it's the next best thing. I mean, I've had shrimp salad, I had a crab cake at Fadley's last week, but we are off. All brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I'll be giving these away. We had a bunch of winners at the local in Falston a couple weeks ago. I'm looking for more winners as well. Here's a winning hat. My Window Nation hat, 86690 Nation. You call them, you buy two, you get two free. 2 years, 0% financing. That is our deal for the month of June. It's Father's Day week. Haven't had this guy on in a little while. Ships passing in the night. The last time we got together, I think Gunnar Henderson might have been hitting 201. He is Mike Rosenfeld. He is our chief digital officer and the outsourced chief digital officer for many businesses here locally and other places at Web Connection. Been a little while, dude. How are you, man? I've seen concerts, ball games, Stanley Cup, NBA, like all of this has happened. Preakness since last time we got together. How are you? How's a chief digital officering?
Oh, it's doing wonderful. It's summertime, so we're all out and about doing our thing. Um, but yeah, all's good. All's good.
Mixing in baseball, are we? A little bit?
Next week I'm visiting my son in Chicago. Just so happens. Actually, it doesn't just so happen. It's Father's Day weekend, and the Baltimore Orioles are playing at Wrigley
Whoa,
Field.
whoa, 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 whoa. You're going to be north siding on Father's Day
I
with your
will.
kid?
I will. There's not much better than that, right?
Have you been to Wrigley before?
I have. It's been a
Okay.
while, but I've been to Wrigley. I was at the old Comiskey. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully the weather will be nice, and we're going to make a nice afternoon out of it for sure. My brother lives in Chicago as well, so we'll have him, a cousin. So we're going to get everyone together, have a beer or three, and enjoy the ball game.
Well, I must say, I did 30 ballparks in 30 days in 2015. I'm on my 17th year now being eliminated. Year two now, the Ravens, June 13th, it became 1 full year since Chad Steele looked me in the eye and told me I'm no longer a real media member, which I find to be just fascinating. But so all these years outside of baseball, I did the baseball tour in 15 and I did the 30 ballparks. Since then, they've opened Atlanta. So I haven't been to that ballpark. They've opened the new one in Dallas. I was there when the week they opened the old one back in '94. I was there for that. The baseball travel thing was something that was a big part of my youth, right? Like you mentioned the old Comiskey. I mean the old Comiskey. I went in the summer of '89 with my buddy Russ Letra. We drove out to the Midwest. First sports trip I ever was on. We drove through Pittsburgh, Cleveland, out to Chicago. We saw the Bears play the Dolphins in a preseason game at the Old Soldier. We went to Wrigley. We went to Comiskey. We saw a night game at Wrigley, which was like the first year of night games. Bilecki was pitching for the Cubs then. He left me tickets. So, like, the sports travel thing and the football thing, I've been all over that for a quarter of a century. But baseball and getting away, and now that the baseball team played in San Francisco 2 weeks ago. They're playing more exotic games. They'll be in and playing the Dodgers in LA every other year. Now that the baseball team gets good, should I go into the let's go to Wrigley Field together weekend for baseball? I mean, one thing they don't do is they don't move baseball games from Sunday to Thursday. They don't do that.
No, they do not. For sure. I mean, look, it's all how you approach life, but I'm all about experiences and just enjoying. So hell yeah. My son told me something. I didn't confirm this is true, but I call him my youngest son, the breaker of news. Uh, he said that there are only 12 baseball stadiums currently older than Camden Yards.
12.
12, which means was it 20? Were there 32 teams? 32 teams?
30, yes.
Okay. So approximately 20 stadiums, 18 stadiums are newer than Oriole Park at Camden
Texas
Yards.
has built two since we built one.
Hasn't Atlanta?
Atlanta has built two since well, I mean, Turner Field was sort of a little bit of a leftover thing from the Olympics. Yes, but correct. Atlanta's built two. Correct.
Right. Look, believe me, I just want them to sign their lease. By the way, this is how my brain works. I hop from topic to
Yeah,
topic.
I'm not allowed to bring that up. If I bring up the lease, I'm just being a jackass and a
What if
bad
I brought
guy.
it?
And
What if I brought it up?
well, you did, but I'm
Yeah.
just being mean. When I bring it up, it's, oh, you hate the Angelos. The Angelos family's been running from me like yellow cowards for 17 years. I don't have a gun. I have questions. I have
Sure.
questions that I'm hoping to honorably, with integrity, hold you accountable for being honest, truthful, things that the Angelos family have never been, like the opening of the books. Like, he'll never live that down. He's a freaking liar, right? So if he tells you the team's here till the Rockets red glare, he told journalists he was going to open his books 4 months ago, and nobody will ever ask a question again. And now that they're winning, you're not allowed to talk about bad things anymore, like the fact that they don't have a lease.
I'm familiar with the press conference you're talking about because there's only been one since then, and at the same press conference, he chastised. I don't recall who it was.
And Connolly.
Okay, and my understanding is that June or July is a pretty significant date. I could be wrong, so that's why I was asking. But look, if you don't want to talk about it, that's totally cool with me. But
No, I love talking about it because it's important. And
totally important.
when money starts to talk, the PGA rolls over. Even though the money's soaked in blood, it's the modern mafia of the world in Saudi Arabia, where people don't have rights. Journalists get murdered conveniently. Here in Baltimore, they don't murder the journalists; they just lock them out and disparage them and just say that they're not real journalists. That's all they do here. That's the way the billionaires play the game in Baltimore. In my personal experience and the experience of all of you who listen and watch, because you've watched it happen. So money talks.
Yeah.
And on the baseball side, so do contracts. And when you don't have a lease and everything's nebulous, and the new governor is trying to be the new governor and trying to keep the peace and keep the baseball team here, you do wonder. You do wonder what's going on in Nashville. You're seeing this Oakland thing where the guy's just picking up the team in the middle of the night, moving it to Vegas, and nobody's saying anything or doing anything. Look, man, these franchises move, and until you have a lease, you don't have a lease. So it is, and certainly John Angelos is a liar. He is a liar until proven and a guy who intimidates me on a daily basis. This week I have a reporter, Luke Jones. He's covering the Orioles and the Ravens because they won't let me in. So he's doing double shifts all week because they won't let the Hispanic guy with the long hair in because they don't like my questions.
Right.
So how far it goes when money starts to talk with billionaires. We saw the PGA and Live last week. Until there's a deal, there's not a deal. So everybody should be concerned about the baseball lease. I speak to you in jest as saying I didn't bring it up. You brought it up. This isn't scripted, but
No.
like we should talk about it more. And
Well,
somebody
but
should be putting pressure on about like, hey, what's the update? The honest update. Don't bullshit me.
well,
Like that's what journalists do. And when they get taken out, there are no questions about this. And it's just la, 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 la. We're hitting a lot of home runs.
yeah. So why don't we do that? Let me tell you what my understanding is. Maybe you can fill in the gaps if you know the gaps. But the governor and Angelos went to Atlanta to see what they did around that
Discovery trip.
ballpark.
Correct.
Right. Which leads you to believe. Well, let me take a half step back for those people who are listening that are younger, don't know the pain as you and I did when we were in high school, maybe middle school in 1984.
Bob Irsay was not moving the goddamn team. He told the media that how many times when he was drunk, right? He
So
had
can
no intention of moving to Arizona.
so
None.
can so can anyone blame people of our age who went through that to feel concerned until there's a lease
If
signed?
not
So,
cynical.
yeah. So
I'm
so
cynical because he got up in front of everybody and chastised a reporter about not knowing anything, and Dan's forgotten more about it. And then 4 months later, they're winning. So it's buy tickets and squirt off and go to Chicago and see the game. But there's no certainty that the franchise is here. And the only certainty is Angelos is going to bend over Westmore and the state to get every single thing he could get or that he could threaten to get in Tennessee or elsewhere if this Oakland thing goes through. And believe me, they're watching that. And if you think John Angelos doesn't have lawyers, ask his brother.
well, look, I as a business person, I do not begrudge someone trying to leverage their situation to get the best deal they can within reason. Um, and the fact that they're extending this over a period of time to try to get the best that they can.
Well, they're getting money from the citizens, right? I
Right.
mean, this is where the money's coming from. It's coming from you and me.
Right.
So a little bit of transparency here could
Right.
go a long way.
But I seem to believe, and if you know the answer, please help enlighten me and everyone who's listening, that the lease has expired. They're guaranteed to play through the end of this season. There's no guarantee after that. And my understanding was that the summertime was a big, whether it was June or July, was a date that we were supposed to mark in the calendar for some action to happen, some finality, some signing. And here we are, it's the 12th of June. I haven't heard anything about that. And I'm wondering, am I misremembering what the timeline was, or what? And we haven't heard anything recently. I haven't heard anything from the governor's office or anything. That whole momentum that happened, it came and went. But am I wrong, or do you happen to know anything about?
Well, it's been quiet. It's been eerily quiet, and I haven't asked. I ran into Westmore on Preakness Day. Obviously, I have no access to ask the Angelos family anything. And quite frankly, and this isn't just me being a prick, Mike, whatever they would say, I wouldn't believe it anyway. Right? I mean, they told me they were opening their books 12 weeks ago. And so like you're a liar until you're not a liar anymore. And that's on the record. That and shielding yourself with Martin Luther King's birthday, just it was gross. John Angelos's performance has been gross. The performance on the field, great. I'll hear that all day. But that has nothing to do with the certainty of the business and the team staying here and at what cost to the citizens. I would say to you that I would expect these things to be quiet until they're not, right? I mean, how'd you like Bisciotti going down to Annapolis and picking up the $600 million check? He sent Sashi Brown and Chad Steele down there and they said no questions and walked away. Took the 600 million bucks, went back to the castle, lock me out, and they don't want to hear anything more about it. And you'll never know they got the $600 million unless you go down there and pay 150 bucks and see the new scoreboards that are going to come up, or whatever party deck they're going to build on the roof, and whatever they're going to do with the seats that remind that they can't sell, that they're trying to sell every week, out on social media. So, have I become cynical? Well, I've dedicated my life to this. I've basically, because we lost the football team in the beginning, every part of my youth was getting this building built at the taxpayers' expense, and then luring the other football team at the taxpayers' expense. And as I look up and I I check the pool card, I'm saying, John Angelos, born on 3rd, thought he hit a triple, went to Gilman, came out. Dad bought team for $145 million. Team now worth $2 billion. John has eaten caviar every year since 1993, lives the life of a billionaire's kid, and the team has, it's only gone up at 10 times in value in 30 years. So I do the quick math on that, and I'm thinking, starts to sound like 60 to 80 million dollars a year. Just every single year the thing has doubled in price, essentially, going up for 30 years. Now let's go to the football side. Oh, Steve bought the team, lives in Baltimore, Baltimore guy. Steve doesn't live in Baltimore. Steve hasn't lived in Baltimore. So Steve visits Baltimore. Steve leers into Baltimore and leaves Baltimore. Steve doesn't live in Baltimore. So all of this local nonsense and taking the money and bringing in outsiders to throw people like me out while they run the team. The football side is what it is. They've won and they get the pass. The baseball team, my God, like, who knows who's running it, what's going on, when the lease will be, but it's important. And it's the most important thing that's going to happen this summer, aside from how many home runs Gunnar Henderson hits, or whether we get Grayson Rodriguez back, or Mike. And I'll spend all day talking about all that. But at its heart, this is going to be a hijacking. This is going to be Angelos trying to get whatever he can get, do what Daddy did, threaten, sit it out. He learned all of these skills. He wasn't going to be the first guy to sign up. And I don't even know what he wants down there. When is that going to leak? What he's asking for? Because I've been to the Atlanta site. Have you been to the Atlanta site?
Have not.
Have you been to Wrigley lately?
No. Next
When's the
week.
last time you were at Wrigley?
15 years ago, maybe.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Michael. You're not
That's
going
not
to
true.
recognize it.
That's not true. I went to a Northwestern football game last year.
Well,
So
the
yeah.
neighborhood and what they've done there,
Yeah.
and how much the Tribune people bought up land and parking, and they didn't do what Atlanta did, which was the Johnny O of Atlanta, the county came out and stole the team, right? Like literally by giving them Owings Mills, basically giving them this giant parcel of land that they've turned into. Have you been to Nats Park lately? Lately, like the last 3 years?
Yes.
My God, what's popped up around that area from a living space, multi-use business space, the bad neighborhoods and the crime and I say getting forced out, gentrification or whatever you want to say for that area down there. It's unbelievably remarkable. I went down to Anthem last month to see Seal, and I drove in the South Side, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a whole city that's created. Atlanta has done that. Chicago, where you're going to be this weekend, look around at what's there and what wasn't there 15 years ago, and how much money has come in because of baseball and because of a stadium and because of gambling. I mean,
Hmm.
gambling's a huge part of it, right, for baseball. But Angelos is envisioning this, and he has no capacity to come on my show like David Modell and put his feet up and tell me what his dream and his vision is. He has no ability to do that. He has no friends in the community here. He has a new governor that's trying to get over with everybody and make everything right and run for president one day, and I get that. And I'll sit with Wes and we'll talk about it. But what the stadium as we know it to be the last 30 years, Mike's not good enough. The Inner Harbor's not good enough. What the Sheridan used to be is not good enough. What the convention center used to be, it's not good enough anymore because I've been to Nashville and I've been to San Diego and I've been to these places. I've been to Vegas where they've now stolen 3 teams and they're about to win a Stanley Cup, right? So I've seen these cities get transformed, including ours, when we got the baseball stadium and the football stadium. But what I'm seeing from a financial outlay and from an infrastructure situation where they built the baseball community in the suburbs of Atlanta, in a White Marsh there, or in a Owings Mills kind of where the freeway meets the road, literally. And what we have here and the potential of it. And I'll believe whatever John Angelos puts in front of me with I'll believe anything for potential, for what the Inner Harbor can be, for what Baltimore can be. But if you think John Angelos should be the Lord of that, you haven't had your eyes open. And whatever we're doing to enrich him and whatever the family and whatever, I mean, all they've done is screwed the city for 30 years and screwed the state for 30 years. And now we're going to give them a community, allegedly. Whatever they ask for, it's going to be outrageous because he thinks he can go to Nashville and get more. And he's going to see whatever Las Vegas is going to do for the Oakland owner. And he's not going to sign a pity, pity, poor me lease deal. This is his only leverage of his lifetime. His old man leveraged him for 30 years. He has the keys to do a deal, not do a deal, be a bad guy and Stan Kroenke and take the team out of town and lie. He's already a liar. He's on record lying. So all of that being baked into this is a lot of responsibility for the young man. He's chased his brother off, usurped his mother, the deal with all the legal proceedings last year. This is John Angelos and Wes Moore trying to create a bigger, better Baltimore. That's really what this is.
Lot to unpack there.
Thank you
So
for allowing me to unpack that because I haven't unpacked it yet.
no, so
I haven't spoken out loud about it, by the way. You can go to Baltimore. This is the first time I've talked out loud about it in 6 months.
well, I think this is enlightening because I think people need to understand it. I'm not going to be the one to say that what these owners are doing is right, moral, fair, reasonable when cities have the problems that they have. What I will say is if you want to play ball, no pun intended, you have to compete. And Baltimore, as we know and love it, we know we're a blue collar town. We have a chip on our shoulder. We're between Washington and Philadelphia. We're just a potential stop if you dare between the two. I'm being facetious because people are ignorant and don't realize the beauty of our city. But at the end of the day, if you want to compete, you have to compete. So look, if you say, you know what, that money would be better spent building up our neighborhoods and infrastructure and roads, I can buy that. But if
And
you
you know
want
what
to,
else you can buy? Is you can buy me saying, what the hell have the Orioles done for Baltimore the last 30 years? What did your father really do? What position did your father leave our community in after wrecking the baseball franchise, which wrecked the hotels, wrecked the, and of course the other answer would be, have you seen the crime? The city wrecked itself. We got wrecked because of the city. And that's the way you leave, right? The way you leave is saying, I couldn't get a deal done. I'm a Baltimorean. I love Baltimore, even though I got cowboy boots on. I live in Nashville. So moving the franchise, but there's a whole notion that Major League Baseball wouldn't allow it, wouldn't allow John to run out. This is, I bet when you peel back this onion, and John's in the middle of this with Rob Manfred in Oakland and Vegas. I mean, let's be honest, Mike. Let's move this to golf for just 1 minute. The golf deal happened. The only reason the golf deal happened, it's not because Jay Monahan loves Saudi Arabian money. He was told by his lawyers, we're going to lose. That's it. The Saudis have come in and taken over the American legal system and the legality of what Live is trying to do and antitrust and how many lawyers they have. And have you met the dead bodies around them? They have an unlimited amount of money. They will put us out. They will put us out. It's like when the mafia comes to town. You better go into business with them because they're going to take you out. And that's what the Saudi Arabia thing felt like to me with golf last week. And it's happening right in front of your eyes in Los Angeles this weekend on Father's Day, that the PGA has been usurped by this, and you're now going to play by their rules. They kill journalists. So whatever their rules are. So if you think you're going to get saved because Rob Manfred's going to save you and save Baltimore and save Camden Yards, the really important thing here, Mike, and I've talked more about this the last 2 weeks, is if you saw the movie Major League, you could say, well, we have a winning team and nobody's coming to the ballpark and we're not making money. And this would be where John or the ownership or the next ownership that would make him wealthy moving the team to Nashville would say, what's the potential for money there? Baltimore's small. It might just be a one sport town. It might just be football. It might just be a one. I'm not here to say that, but I do know this. They're winning and people better start coming back and spending money. Because to
Right.
your point, that's where it's at. And that's the thing that's going to get Tampa in the end. It's what got Oakland in the end. That if you want the team, you have to come and give Mr. Angelos your money, whatever Angelos is in front of the team.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate and have you laugh at me along the way. Okay, this is because you know way more than I'll ever know because of what you do for a living. This is just coming to a lifelong Baltimorean who loves our sports teams. Um, I will acknowledge. I mean, here's my memory of Peter Angelos in the beginning. Spent money, wanted to win. Spoke e extremely long at Cal Ripken's event, and it was uncomfortable, and it was very much me, and then everything went downhill. I don't know his sons. What I can tell, and it's ugly from what I read
His
about.
son's been here 30 years and like nobody knows him. So like,
Well,
so much for his loyalty to Baltimore. You know what
what
I mean?
I
These people are going to feign loyalty to Baltimore when they don't even live here.
what I will say, and this is where you may laugh at me, is the direction that the team is taking, hiring a Mike Elias, investing in the Caribbean and South America, in being patient and being and building up the farm system to the fact to where we're number one for several years. That's because we sucked, but we sucked for a decade before there, and I don't remember our farm system
I
being there.
would never say to you the baseball thing's being run poorly now. It's
Okay,
not.
so
They
so
got a
let's
genius running it. They had a
right,
genius. I mean, Duquette was a weirdo,
right,
but a genius. I
yeah.
mean, when you bring in genius people and you stink and you draft Manny Machado and you trade for Chris Davis and he turns out okay, the way you don't stink is don't give him money.
So
You know,
this is where the scar tissue is. The breaker of news, my son that I call him, says Mike Elias is having a random press conference. This was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I'm like, oh man, is he leaving? Has he had enough? Does he not like the direction that this family is taking him in? That's how, and I'm a half full guy, but with the scar tissue of the Colts and not signing the lease, I'm like, is
no
this
matter
guy
what, the Dodgers is a better job.
right? So
Right? I
so
mean, if Mike Elias isn't here for life, they're going to have to pay him a lot of money to keep him around. And by the way, my sources told me when they signed him, he was the highest pay. They had to overpay to get him to come to Baltimore work for this family while daddy's eating pudding and the kids are fighting. I mean,
But
he has
that's
been here for 3 years of the kids and the mother fighting. If you think that hasn't created a bad night or two for him,
right,
uh, privately, I
right,
would be stunned
right.
if it's been quiet. I mean,
So so I am going to continue my rant of half full here. The baseball team is being run better than it was under the father. It's ugly that the family business is going public, and the feuding and all that. But if you look at the pure baseball situation, it's great. I don't begrudge someone who owns a franchise to not want to take a hometown discount. You hear that all the time. They're looking at deals that other owners are making. They want something similar. Do I love it? Do I think it's distasteful as a guy who's not a billionaire or didn't inherit billions of dollars?
if you're a city resident and seeing how bad the schools are and saying
Exactly.
we're
So I'm
giving
not
billionaires $600 million.
I'm not here to say that that's fair. I'm just saying if you want to be competitive, that's what it's going to take. Either you got to stomach it or say bye bye, pack up, and good riddance to you. But so therefore, when you're negotiating, you can't tell people he's playing poker right now. If I'm wrong, and if this team leaves, it's unconscionable that a local family who saw what happened in 1984 and afterwards did to the city. But I don't begrudge them at this point for keeping the cards close to their vest to try to get the
Well, how
best.
many years do you do the 1 year deal, one
It's
year
got to
deal,
be
1 year
done. It's
deal?
done. I think that's it. It's got to be put up or shut up at this point. How many 1 year deal? How many years have they done 1 year
He
deals?
can do whatever he wants. He owns the baseball team. Oakland's playing with raccoons running around the stadium and
Wait, wait.
rats.
The
He
lease
can
is
do
with
whatever
the
they want.
stadium authority, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Well, they're
Okay,
not going to tell him he can't play here next year.
but they
No, dude, he'll come on now. He can string this along as long as until such point he gets what he wants. Whatever it is he wants. I don't even know what he wants. I don't know. I would be interested to see if Westmore knows exactly what he wants. And I'm telling you what he wants, you're going to see in Chicago, which is all of it. Mine. I want mine. Steve doesn't care about the city. Steve didn't care about having the casino and the houses across the street and what Bob Kraft did, building movie theaters and building a mall around it. If Steve wanted any of that, he would have gone and fought for it. Steve just wants to be on his boat and be left alone. Like literally. And everybody that knows Steve tells me that. Steve's already wealthy. Steve didn't want to be the guy coming in here threatening to move the team, any of that. Steve has executives, he has a team. At some point, he'll sell the team. He tried to sell the team a couple of years ago. Nobody reported that. It's a fact that Steve was shopping the football team before the plague, that he thought maybe he wanted to be out. Feels like he's in now. But I could wake up a week from Monday and they could have a new owner. Instead, would be so like Steve to not do it the way Dan Snyder did it or the way the Denver people did it, which is paraded around. Steve may have a press conference a week from Tuesday and say, here's my new owner. Boom, done. I'm out. Here's the keys. Enjoy Sashi and Chad. And hey, Nestor, F you too. You know what I mean? Like that's how Steve's going to exit. He's not giving the team to his kids. He's not going to talk about it. He's not going to put it out on the market, say it's for sale, whatever. He's got a lease. He's got a management team. It's worth more than it's ever been worth, right? So when Steve walks away, I don't think we're going to get a call on that. But John ain't never done anything except sit around and watch his father screw things up, right? Like this is John's chance to be Mr. Big and to make a deal and make a splash and make a legacy and move back to Baltimore. And I don't know what the hell John wants. Nobody does. When John has spoken out publicly, he's made a fool of himself.
well,
And so I don't expect John to speak out. But to your point, you're a concerned citizen. You're a concerned fan. You're a vested Oriole fan and you want to buy in. And if they're trying to sell you a sponsorship for the stadium, for the what do you say? Do you have a lease? What's the long-term plan? Come on, Wes. Come on, John. Come on, Georgia Angelos. Come on, Rob Manfred. What's the big plan for baseball here the next 20 years? Now y'all are taking gambling money. What are you doing for the city? Steve sidestepped that by just taking the money and sending Sashi and Chad down to Annapolis, and Chad stands up all 6'8". No questions, and everybody runs like hell, and nobody even knows that he signed a lease,
so
except
so
people
he
listening to me right now.
so I know that John Angelos patiently awaits your and my release of our interviews here. So here's what I have to say to John. John, if you're a skilled, gifted, if you didn't just inherit the team and you want to make a legacy and you want to be put your big boy pants on and you want to make a deal, 1 year extensions is not a sign of a good, in my opinion, a good business person. Put on your big boy pants.
How about the good
Negotiate a
faith
deal.
of just living here this summer and rowing the boat and showing up at places and saying, I'm the new old owner of the Orioles. I'm going to be your owner the next 15 years. And here are the dreams we have for the city and reinvigorating the city and things I couldn't do. We're working for my father. We all know my father, but I'm here now and I'm competent and I'm on. Nobody has that confidence. Nobody that met John Angelos at Gilman has that confidence or has ever portrayed that confidence to me that he is going to come in here and be Rocky Wirtz
But he could.
as you
So
go to
here's
Chicago.
so he but he could. So here's the ask. If you can't get what you want, you can't extract from the city and the state what is reasonable or to you or what you want. Stop putzing with us and get on with it. And if you're going to move the team, move the team. But otherwise, negotiate a deal, be a business person, get what you can get, improve the city in the way that you think it could be improved. Once again, I know people are going to be like, what? We could take that money and build schools and all that. And I totally get that. And while I'm being facetious here, I do not know that he is not capable or isn't currently doing that. So,
I know he's not feet on the street.
but I am, because you know more than I'm going to I always give people the benefit of the doubt. But once again, I bring it back to, I swore that I heard June and July was an important time. And that may be, to your point, when they have to say, okay, we're doing another 1 year deal. If I'm the state,
Well,
I'm like,
he's
you know
not
what?
playing in Montreal next year, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no chance of that. That's zero. I mean, and people say, well, yeah, you talk about them moving the franchise. The franchise ain't going. Play this out 3, 4, 5 years if he can't get what he wants, and if what he wants is outrageous, and the public gets a hold of it, and the public starts throwing it around and saying, "We're doing what for whom?" For who? Who goes to the games? A bunch of white people go to the games. Let's be honest. I mean, I've been to the games. Who's engaged in is the team really engaged in the community? And more than that, it's not about the stadium. It really isn't. It's about what happens outside of the stadium.
For
It's
sure.
about this Chicago, Atlanta, San Diego model where all of the real estate around there, including my place where I lost $250,000 being 3 blocks from his stadium while the team languished and while he got wealthy.
Right.
Right? I mean, the team went up in value and they're getting all the money I lost living down there with none of the benefit of being down there. And we're trying to figure out the inner harbor. This should be talked about in tough tongue. This
Mhm.
shouldn't be, hey, they're just the Orioles. We got to keep them. We give him anything he wants. Well, what is anything he wants? What does he want? And that
Right.
would be that, to your point. That's the big boy part of this and saying, come on, you want to make an investment here the next 20 years. You want us to invest in you. What is the investment here other than the city's going to be an ATM for you, like the television network was for the last 20 years?
Yeah, I need to see something. I need to see some of these young people get contract extensions. I need to see I need to see this isn't going to be what Tampa was. They're better now because they're spending more money on their players, but I don't want to see Adley in pinstripes. I don't want to see Gunner in LA. I don't want to see any of that. So let's just you've evolved the team to where I think people here see the vision and trust the process, which is what they said about the Sixers, but they never made it over the hump. I'm trusting the baseball process of the team. But as far as the city and all that, come on, man. Now I have one last question. And that is, did the Ravens ever go year to year? Did they ever posture?
No, no, no. The Ravens got in ahead.
Right. I mean, that's a business strategy. It's a negotiating tactic. I mean, it
It's also
killed.
a great business strategy for Steve to sell the team with certainty as opposed to dangle the team with uncertainty, which would be moving them to Europe. Or, I mean, with the Chargers being out there, they're dangled. They would be worth billions more in Europe than they are
Right.
in LA, right? With the Ravens, the idea that the Ravens are going to move, that's not in Steve's mind, right? Like
Mhm.
Steve's mind is, I'm going to sit him there for the next 20 years and I'm not going to own the team in 20 years. Steve would admit that and say
Mhm.
someone else is going to own the team, and they're damn sure not going to move the team because it's going to have a lease, and
Mhm.
there's going to be a certainty, and enough is enough. I don't need a $10 billion franchise. I have a $5 billion franchise.
Mhm.
I'm good with that. I don't know what John thinks, other than when his lips have been moving, he's been lying. I'll say this about Steve. Steve's too honest, right, to be in front of me, because I would ask him real questions and he'd be inclined to give real answers. And he stopped doing that after
Mhm.
Ray Rice. He stopped doing that because of litigious people. He never liked it. Steve never liked talking to the media. He always feared it. He hates the media, which I'm example one of why I'm not there at camp this week. Steve Bisciotti hates me and he hates the media. He hates people who ask questions. But
Mhm.
that being said, he loves the city and
Mhm.
he loves the football team. John Angelos, I don't know what John Angelos loves. You know what I mean? But maybe significance and money at this point. He's got money, but significance would come from doing something greater than whatever he's done, which is a crappy television network that they made a lot of money on. Um, I
The
just
fact the
I
fact
like
is
doers. I don't like bullshitters, Mike. You know what I mean? Like
the
I saw David Modell being a doer. I saw Larry Lucchino being a doer. I saw people being doers here, and I don't see doers right now. I see people like Sashi Brown and Chad Steele that sit at the top of a throne that was built 30 years ago, that the Ravens are too big to fail. They can't. Empty seats don't cost them money. Nothing costs them money. The baseball thing with the media side of this, like I had Jeff Montgomery on last week, right? Multiple all-star buddy of mine, owns the sports radio station in Kansas City, has for as long as I've owned WNST. And I've known Jeff longer than that, right? Jeff came on last week, and you know what I said to him? I got on the front end of your questions. I said to him, how could they have done that differently than what I saw 4 weeks ago, which is this moribund empty ballpark? My images of Mike Moustakas and Eric Hosmer and blah 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 blah, them winning, Ned Yost winning, and I was there when they swept us in Kansas City, seeing all that, seeing the parade, and it's like blink, they're all gone. We suck. The fans are gone. There's nobody at the stadium. And that's the Royals right now. That's what they are. I said to him, how could the Orioles ever have this arc where they win the next 3 or 4 years? How do they not be empty again in 2029?
right.
How does that happen?
They
I don't know. It's baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have to do what the Rays did. They have to keep the smart people that they overpaid in the front office, because we have to have realistic expectations about the economics of baseball, unlike football with
Did
salary.
John Angelos have realistic economics about Baltimore if he can make more money elsewhere? I mean, that's a fair question to ask, right?
Here's the reality, and we know this for a fact. He is going to leave a legacy. He is going to leave a legacy. It's either going to be his legacy is going to be in Baltimore, keeping the team here long term, building a
Community.
experience and community outside there, or he'll be Art Modell, who will be welcomed as a hero to the city he moves to. He has two options to be a hero.
Hero
And,
sounds good. I'm 55. I'd love to be a hero. I tried to be a hero here for 30 years. I'm
right.
not, but I tried. You know what I mean? And part of trying is having conversations like this that you're not going to hear at WBAL. Mike Rosenfeld is my guest. He is a Web Connection. He is the outsourced chief digital officer, even for disposed and deposed media members like myself. Tell me what you do, because you manage websites at a high level for a lot of people, and you are in the business space of people who talk about such things as the Orioles lease and the importance of the city, right? I mean, this isn't about the baseball team. It's about the city and it's about the community. It's about business, which is what you hold together.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I would say I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And what Web Connection, what we do here is we provide outsourced chief digital officers. So any small to mid-sized business who has no idea to how to leverage the web, whether it's their website, their apps, social media, digital advertising, email marketing, whatever it is, we come in, we learn the business, and we act as an executive to help chart a course of what each client should do, how they should leverage these tools, and how they should grow. We are not a digital agency. We would be the ones that would determine, do we need a digital marketing agencies, and what of the services that they're trying to provide are BS and which ones are actually valuable to us. So that's what we do. We do it on a fractional basis, so it's affordable to most small to mid-sized businesses who really want to compete and grow.
Well, you can find Mike out at the front of Baltimore Positive. You can find him at webconnection.com. He's also out on the social media channels. Find him having a beer and a sausage if he's doing it right on the north side. So I got a spot for you in Chicago. Are you ready? Are you going to take me up
Sure.
on it? P
Well, go ahead.
P PEQUOD P quads
That's
PEQUOD.
your pizza spot.
That's my pizza spot. I want you
Yep.
to go there, get the sausage and pepperoni pizza. I want you to sit at the bar, get the beer of your choice. It's a long fly ball from Wrigley Field, but a short Uber ride, I might add,
Okay.
and probably a beautiful walk to the north side of Chicago. Quite frankly, the 18 blocks from there to Wrigley Field, and you'll have a full belly anyway and beer in you, so you're gonna need to walk it off. But I hope you have the greatest weekend ever in Chicago. For anybody that is going out, I hope you enjoy the Cubs experience. I enjoyed it at the turn of the century many, many times with friends that lived up there. And a second place Orioles team you're getting in Chicago, Michael.
It's beautiful. Hey, before we go, I have a challenge to everyone out there. Try to find out the answer to this Oriole question, this lease question, so that we can light a fire. We are the citizens of this city. He owns a baseball team, but this is far outreaches that, and we just got to get some answers.
He sued his brother in a bloodbath the last 2 years in front of everybody. You think he's not capable of moving the baseball team?
I do. Believe
That's all.
me, I do.
He doesn't
I
live.
feel that.
Like, come on, man. Come on,
Oh, I
man.
do.
Like, we got to at least talk about it.
Yeah.
I am excited about baseball. Luke's at the ballpark all week. The Blue Jays are in this weekend, off on a bird to Chicago, where Mike Rosenfeld will be watching baseball with pizza, beer, and sausage on the north side of one of my favorite adopted towns. The south side, they like the Aparicios more than they do on the north side. I will assure you of that. And they eat that other kind of pizza on the south side as well. I am Nestor. I'm out on the road. We're everywhere. Luke is going to be in Owings Mills. If there's any breaking news, you get it first on the WNST Tech Service. Brought to you by our friends at Kuntz Baltimore Ford. I'm doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour beginning next week at Spirits West on Wilkins Boulevard. All my St. Joe buddies seem to like that a lot as well. It's also brought to you by our friends at Window Nation. I'm Nestor. We are WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.